All right. Take a seat. Not there. What?
Last minute visitor.
Josh, safe travels.
Thank you. Safe travels.
Tired
Bezrat
Bezrat Hashem. Okay. There's going to be some technical things today. I know some of the technical things are difficult because you haven't heard of these ideas and you're wondering what does this mean. That's okay. First of all, you have to learn the ideas. Second of all, there's nowhere to start in Chassidus where you don't run into technical ideas. You can't say, well, I'll start over here and there aren't any difficult ideas, and then I'll go over there and there are difficult ideas. You just have to start. Obviously, things that are more difficult and less difficult, but basically you just start and learn Mamarim and get the general idea of how things work. Okay, so we had mentioned relative to Moshe Rabbeinu that Moshe Rabbeinu was privy to the highest level of godly light, called Atzmus Or Ein Sof. Right? That's what we had explained in Ois Hei, the 5th chapter. We said there are 3 different levels of light: Or Mamale, the light that fills, the light that's responsible for the direct vitality of everything created, and even beyond creation, in the world of Atzilus. There's also reality of Or Mamale, and what's that? That's the light that fills the 10 spheres in Atzilus. So the spheres have a level of light, and they have a level of Kalim. What's the Kli? The Kli is also godliness, and it's godliness that allows for a specific expression and a specific revelation of godly reality. Okay. Then there's our Sevev, and our Sevev, we said, was a light that's commensurate to it's shayach to the worlds. It has some relationship with the worlds, and we call it Sevev Kolomi, but its relationship is that it's infinite and therefore can't be revealed in the world. That doesn't mean it's not here, right? Infinite numbers, right? How many numbers between the number 1 and the number 1.1? An infinite set of numbers. Okay, so infinite reality exists down here, but it doesn't exist in a state of revelation. You can't see infinite here. You see finite. Right? Were we to see infinite, that would bring about the bittul, the nullification of finite. I wouldn't be aware of finite reality. I'd be aware of infinite reality. What does that look like? I haven't got a clue. Right? Anybody know what infinite reality looks like. We've never experienced that down here. Okay, there's some level of us that's experienced it. Could be, but it's not part of my conscious reality down here. Okay. You and I experience finite. Again, what's the source of that? Called Or Mimale, and that you have to know. Like it's not. It's not. It's not part of the free choice enterprise. I can either know this or not know this. You have to know this the same way you know your way home, or else you can't learn anything about God. You don't want to learn anything about God, but say, okay, go be a plumber and then hang out and fix pipes. But I mean, if you want to know what life is really all about, you got to know something about God, and that means you have to know what Or Mamale is, and you have to know what Or Sevev is. Right? Did I know before? No. Do I know now? Yeah. Why not? Been talking about it for 3 days, 4 days. Why not? Might be before you moved into this building, you never knew there was a place in the world called gun soccer. Now you do. And if someone were to ask you, where's gun soccer? And you go, I've never heard of it. We think you're weird. Like, what's wrong? What do you mean you've never heard of it? How can you possibly not know what it is? Right? You live right across the street from it. Okay, so maybe the first day the guy doesn't know, but if you've been here a week and you don't know what gun soccer is, like, what have you been doing? You don't know what, peach-flavored yogurt is. Where have you been? Slept in every day. Okay, so you have to know Mamale and Sevev also. So I didn't know it yesterday. I know it today. I now know Mamale and Sevev. But those 2 levels of light are relevant to the worlds. One, in terms of being the direct source of, we'll just leave Eilam Atzilus off to the side for a minute, direct source of created reality, metaphysical created reality, physical created reality, the direct source of this coffee cup, which I'm not going to pick up and everybody understands why, the direct source of that coffee cup is Or Mamale, godly light. We're learning about it in Tanya also, the daily Tanya. Right? Were the light not diminished, what would happen? The coffee cup would not be visible in existence. Which is, we'd experience infinite reality. Well, that's what I experience. I don't experience that. The moshe for that, we've talked about this. The moshe for that in physical reality, in Gashmias, walking into the bathroom at 6:30 in the morning on a winter morning and turning on the light. What do you see? Nothing. Why? Too much light. You white out, right? Then what happens? Your pupil is mitzamsem the light, so that it's just the right power for you to see all the differentiated reality in the bathroom. It went out of existence when you couldn't see it? No, it was there. You just weren't experiencing that level of reality. You were experiencing another level of reality. Not exactly infinite, because it wasn't infinite light, but I mean, okay, as close as we'll get. That's not something you should do often, because it's not good for your eyes, but anytime you white out with light. So you get an appreciation of what it means that there could be such a powerful revelation of godliness that I would not be aware of finitude. So those are the two levels that we did. And then there was the third level. The third level was the level of Moshe Rabbeinu. Atzmus Ein Sof. A level of light that's completely and totally beyond the worlds, isn't relevant in any way, shape, or form to worlds, isn't affected by the idea of tzimtzum, of diminishing the light in any way, shape, or form. Even Or Sevev, the language we say about Or Sevev, it'll come up later. The language we say about Or Sevev is noga bat tzimtzum. Tzimtzum, constriction, touches it. Why does it touch it? As we said earlier, so to speak, Or Sevev, when it encounters finite reality, there's a sign that says, do not enter. So it's affecting it, it's limiting it. It can't go there, so to speak. Okay? Yeah? Level Atzmos Ein Sof? It's completely beyond limitation. Okay, and we'll see how that affects. We can't understand what we're about to learn if we don't understand that. That's why the Rebbe taught us that first. And that's Moshe. Okay. Yesterday we saw... And why did we understand that? We understand Moshe as being the Ashir, the one who's not lacking anything. That's the Ashir, not the one who has a chauffeur-driven Lexus. He's not Ashir. How do I know he's not Ashir? Because the Hilchos Tzedakah, we learned, if someone used to have a Lexus with a chauffeur, so it might be that I'm supposed to give him enough money so he can afford a Lexus and a chauffeur, but I don't have to make him rich. That's not called rich. Why? Because he's lacking. Lacking a Rolls Royce, right? Right across from the bus stop that I parked, usually at the bus stop, it's a little annoying, that I usually stand at to take the bus home, is some sort of car. I think it's actually a Lexus, I'm not sure. It's not a cheap car, but painted on the side of the car, like mama's painted on the side of the car, it says, need money to buy Lamborghini.
Yeah.
Okay, I got it, like me. You got a nice car? Well, yeah, but there's something better. Right? Okay. I don't know why. I mean, Lamborghinis tend to be pretty small, though. But, okay. I took a picture and sent to my son, who thought it was funny. Okay. So now, we asked the question yesterday about Moshe. Right? The Medrash in Ois Vav, we saw this at the very end of yesterday, Ois Vav, on page Shin Chaf. Okay? On page Shin Chaf, the Rebbe asks, well, the Rebbe first explains, what's Tfilas Moshe? So what is Tfilas Moshe? So we heard that Medrash, right? We learned that Medrash. And the Medrash talks about 3 different levels of Tfilah. What are the 3 different levels of Tfilah? Asher, Habakkuk, beautiful, and Ani. Tfilah Ani, and who's that?
Moshe.
No, Moshe's Asher. David HaMelech, right? David HaMelech. Who's Malchus? David HaMelech. We're going to learn about Malchus today. David HaMelech. Okay. So there's 3 different levels of Tefillah. Tefillah Lani, Tefillah L'Chabakuk, which was the Haftarah in the second day of Shavuos and Chutz La'aretz, and Tefillah L'Moshe, which is Tefillah Sa'asher. So the question was, what's Moshe davening for? That was our question. After a long explanation as to who Moshe is and why the idea of Moshe's davening is difficult to understand, because davening is basically There are other aspects to it, but the ikr of davening is asking for that which you lack. He doesn't lack, not in Gashmias, not in Ruchnias. So, what's he davening for? So, simple pshat, what's the answer based on the Medrash? You can answer it in one line. What's he davening for? For other people, for us. Okay. All right. That was the answer. So that's what the Medrash says. Now, we have to look at the Medrash again, because the Rebbe is going to explain the words in the Medrash very, 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 very carefully over the next 2 pages, and so we have to know this Medrash very, very well. So we'll look at it again. Second line on Shin Chav. We're not going to learn the whole paragraph, but we have to learn the Medrash. Right? K'de'isa b'Medrash, the Medrash called Shecher Tov, which is a Medrash on Tehillim, and the Yalkut Shimoni, which is a Medrash on Nach. Ala Pasuk Tefillah L'Meshe. Medrash meaning Chazal's explanation of Torah Shabbat B'Chsav. Chazal meaning the people who talk in the Mishnah and the Gemara. K'de'isa b'Medrash, Ala Pasuk Tefillah L'Meshe, Moshe L'mad Avedema. What's this like? L'shleishi Shabbat Litail Eitzah Min HaMelech Me'ez HaMelech. 3 people came to ask from the king. And the first 2 ask about the tshuva, etc., etc. Ba Shlishi, the third one comes. Amar Loi HaMelech Ma'ata Mevakesh. What are you asking for? Now he's the usher, so he doesn't have anything to ask for. Amar Loi Eini Mevakesh Alatzmi Davar. I'm not asking for myself anything. Ella, and now these words are very, very important. The Rebbe is going to be, as we said earlier yesterday, the Rebbe is going to be medayik in every one of these words. Medina Plonis Hi Chareva. A particular city is destroyed. Vehi shelcha, and it's yours. Gezor shetibane. Decree that it should be rebuilt. Kach Mesha lo bikesh la'atzmei. So too Mesha did not ask for himself, because he's not lacking. Ela b'shvil Yisrael. For Yisrael. Okay. So evidently they are lacking. We'll get to that later also. That also comes up, which is very interesting. Okay. Then at the end of Shir, the Rebbe asked the question. Remember this question?
Yep.
Why do you have to be an usher to ask this?
Beautiful. Well done. Why do you have to be an usher to ask for this? I assume if he's tefillah's usher, then his tefillah is an existential expression of his ashirut, of his riches. This is just, he's a nice guy. I mean, I can't daven for someone else. Of course I can daven for someone else. So then why is this called tefillah's usher? Now, the simple pshat, which is not a good pshat, is, well, since he doesn't have anything for himself, he'll daven for someone else. Okay, the Seder, but that's... So don't daven. You want to daven for someone else? Davening for someone else has nothing to do with being an usher. Davening for someone else has to do with being an empathetic person who's aware of someone else's pain. So you daven for them. Right? Friedrich Rebbe, in describing in his inimitable way, in his incredibly poetic and romantic way in Likutei Diburim, Friedrich Rebbe describes how you should relate to the Yenim's Leitev, someone else is not good. The not good in someone else. Right? First you're mekarev him with a finger, very gently, noch mit the hand, and then with the hand also gently. Right? And then you go home and you say Tehillim for him with tears. You have to be rich to do that? No, you just have to be a normal person who cares about the welfare of another person. So he sees another person in a place that's not a good place, it hurts him. Right? Okay, so what's got to do with the usher? That's where we left off yesterday. Okay, let's go for it. L'chaim. Okay. V'yuven ze al pi hamavur ba'maimer. This is understood based on that which is explained in the Maimer. Which Maimer? What Maimer do the Rebbe keep harking back to? The Maimer of whom? Rebbe Rashab. What year? Oh, why forget the easy stuff? Tafresh Samach, 1900. Okay? Rebbe Rashab Tafresh Samach. Everything we've been learning since Ois Daled, look at the beginning of Ois Daled, on page Shin Yud Ches. This is how the Rebbe says a Maimer. If you get used to it, this is how our Rebbe teaches us Chassidus, by teaching us other Maimarim. Yuven ze behekdim mashakosuf tefila l'meisha, right? The Inyan of tefila l'meisha, which of course is in Tehillim, and from that point on, the Rebbe is going to start quoting the. I'm sorry. Even look in Hay, it's even more. Yuven ze behekdim adiuk ta'ad me'marshav nishmas eidin b'ma'an marad tefila l'meisha, right? From then on, everything we're learning. Now, is it going to go to the end of the Maimon? I don't know. Let's see. Right? I don't know. But right now, everything the Rebbe is telling us is based on that Maimon of the Rebbe Rashab, Tafresh Samach. That's how the Rebbe teaches us Chassidus. Mm-hmm. Yosef said, the Friedrich Rebbe, usually, more often than anything else, the Rebbe will be teaching a Maimer of his Rebbe, but not always. Very, very often. There's a whole series of my mind. It seems like I wouldn't say he's a friend of mine. It's someone just that I've known a long time. He's older than me, wiser than me. And so he was in Yechidus by the Rebbe 50 years ago. And, well, actually probably 60. Closer to 60, right? Between 50 and 60. Because of the Rebbe's name, what the Rebbe said to him. So he asked, the Rebbe told him he has to learn. So he asked, what should I learn? So the Rebbe said, you should learn what I learned. So he asked the Rebbe, what did the Rebbe learn? The Rebbe said, Niglin Chassidus. Right? What do you learn? Niglin Chassidus. Gemara, Halacha, and Chassidus. Right? That's what you learn. So he didn't ask the Rebbe what Nigla he was learning. He wasn't interested. He asked the Rebbe what Chassidus is the Rebbe learning. Right? And you're there, right? I mean, if you're not scared stiff, so maybe you'll actually say something of interest that will be useful to the rest of us afterwards. So he asked the Rebbe, what's the Rebbe learning? And the Rebbe said that now I'm koching in my marm with the Rebbe Marash. Now the Rebbe's learning my marm with the Rebbe Marash. That's what the Rebbe was learning. I once asked Rabbi Groner what the Rebbe does in the room all day. And he sits and learns. So, so I continued the conversation. I said, well, how does he have time to run the world? He does that too, don't worry. It's time to run the world. Most of the time, the Rebbe is sitting in there learning Torah. Finish Shas every year. Right? Finish the whole Gemara every year. Right? Okay, and that takes time. I mean, he obviously knew it, but it still takes time. Right? He's learning my Maimer with the Rebbe Marash. Now, it happens to be very, very interesting because there are Tkufot where you'll notice that every Maimer that the Rebbe is teaching us during that Tkufa will be based on a Maimer with the Rebbe Marash. Why? That's what the Rebbe was learning. So that's where the Maimer were coming, based on that, and explaining that, and bringing that into a whole new level of understanding. So here the Rebbe was learning a Maimer with the Rebbe Rashab. The Yuvan's Alpia Mavur Baha Maimer. The Maimer. What Maimer? Wait a minute, the Maimer. There's thousands of Maimer. No, the Maimer I've been talking about for the last 2 pages, the Rebbe says. Now the Rebbe is going to say some technical things. Don't get nervous when you see technical things in Chassidus. They all mean something. Sometimes it's easier to understand why they mean what they mean. Sometimes it isn't, but you still know that A equals B. I don't exactly understand why A equals B, but okay, I got it. In this case, it's not so hard to understand why A equals B. Who's Mesha davening for? Medina Ploinis. Right? And the Rebbe says Mesha's davening for Knesset Yisrael, the Jewish people. Right? Okay. The Knesset Yisrael, you've heard that before, Knesset Yisrael. Knesset Yisrael, he bechinas Malchus. Is Malchus. Now what's Malchus? Malchus is the lowest of the 10 spheres. Malchus is the sphera that we say about Malchus, Ein la lagar me klum. She doesn't have anything of her own. She is simply the receptacle for the all of the or of the spheres above her. So therefore, Malchus is like the moon. The moon is, we're going to see, the moon is compared to Malchus. The moon receives the light from the sun. Right now, interesting enough, there was a time when the moon was its own luminary. Oh, but then something happened called miut halavana, the diminishing of the moon. It's precious, right? It's right in the beginning of the Torah. What's that in real life? I mean, in real life is the moon all of a sudden was no longer a luminary. Okay, but in our everyday life, what does that mean? That's called the breaking of Malchus. That Malchus is no longer revealing the godliness that she is innately connected to. And therefore, she's going to be Hareva. Medina, that's Hareva. She's going to be broken. Okay, so now, up in godliness, so what's Malchus? Malchus isn't broken. In Olam Atzilus, what's Malchus? So Malchus is the source of Bria Yesh Mi'ayin, because again, Malchus is the receptacle for all of the Or of Olam Atzilus. So to that extent, Malchus is Shayach to the notion of Kelim. It's the receptacle. Malchus is femininity. What happens? What does femininity do? Femininity receives Shefa from above and gives birth to a new state of reality. What does Malchus in every world do? Malchus in any world is the source of the next world that comes. The world that comes after Malchus. What a surprise. I thought I was going to have to put up without you for longer, but now you surprised me. You were sending ominous warnings my way. You know, you won't see me for the next 12 years, but I'll be back.
Good to be here.
So Malchus is that state in Elokus. That means the state in, let's talk in terms of worlds, the state in any world that is the repository of all the light of that world, and therefore also the source of the next world. So Malchus of Atzilus is the source of Elam HaBriya. Where does that magical event called Bria Yesh Mi'ayin happen? The creation of something created from nothing created. Malchus of Atzilus gives birth to Elam HaBriya. What's Bria? Yesh. Created reality. What's Malchus? Ayin. Not created reality, godly reality. Meaning Malchus of Atzilus. And somehow, godly reality gives birth to created reality, which is something like planting a peach and getting an apple. How's that happen? Okay, it's beyond understanding, but I would say we can explain it one way or the other. Ultimately, it comes from a koyach beyond the infinite and beyond the finite, koyach atzmus, the power of the essence of God. Okay. But that's Malchus. So therefore, Malchus mitzad echad is the source of everything. Malchus mitzad sheni is most powerfully affected by what we'll call loosely Golus. Or Lav Dafka Golus. I mean, it's going to be Golus because that's where we're going. But created reality where God's hidden. Now, what's Malchus also? The source of the souls of the Jewish people, which is called Knesset Yisrael. The word kinus. What's a kinus? A gathering, right? Convention. It's called the kinus. Kinus HaShulchan. Convention of the Shulchan. Right? Okay, so Knesset Yisrael is the gathering together of all the souls of the Jewish people. Malchus. So Malchus is the source of there. So. Okay, so that's Malchus. Ubakasha, so then what's Mesha asking for? Mesha is asking for Knesset Yisrael, right? That's what it says. Somehow there's something that requires fixing. Ubakashas Mesha of where Knesset Yisrael Haisa, the request of Mesha for Knesset Yisrael, which is, again, the gathering of the source of all the neshamas that come down here. Knesset Yisrael is the metaphysical reality of the Jewish people, and then there's a physical reality of the Jewish people. We're down here in bodies, bumping into each other. Bakashas Meishav or Knesset Yisrael Haisa was Bishvil Yisrael Kipshutam, for the Jewish people simply, meaning that simple pshat. V'gam, but also on a much higher spiritual level, Bishvil Sfiras HaMalchus. Moshe was asking for the fixing of Sfiras HaMalchus. Because in that event, which we're not going to talk about, called Shviras HaKelim, what broke? Malchus. The breaking of the vessels. Pop Kabbalah. It's not pop Kabbalah, it's real. It's just, it's good for some, shock in Judaism. But what breaks Malchus? Okay. In other words, to put it simply, godliness isn't revealed. What would be the ultimate vehicle for the revelation of godliness? Malchus. In you, what's Malchus? You say it every Friday night. Malchus, peh, Torah Shabal peh. Malchus is speech. What does speech do? Reveals outside of you what's going on inside of you. Oh, that's Malchus, right? We say it every Friday night, right, in Kagavim, right? Peh, Torah Shabal peh. Not in Kagavim, sorry, before. Peh, Torah Shabal peh. That's Malchus. Okay, speech. So now there could be a state where that revelation is somehow interrupted. We're going to see it in two lines. What's that in the creation of the world? That's miut halavana, the diminishing of the moon, which is the diminishing of Malchus, meaning creating a world where godliness is not so obviously revealed. For a purpose. The Rebbe created the world with that lack of revelation because what he wants is you and I to reveal God down here. Okay, so the world's going to be in a perfect state of imperfection so that you and I can fix it. If it were any more imperfect, then it might be unfixable. No. It's perfectly imperfect so that you and I can do what's necessary to bring about the perfection of that imperfection. And that's what God wanted. Why? I don't know. Meaning, the way Chazal describe it is what? That he had a taiva for a dir b'tachtonim. He had a desire for a dir b'tachtonim. And it's interesting, the word that Chazal uses is nit aveh. And nit aveh, a taiva, what's interesting, a taiva and a ratzon, and we've been talking a lot about ratzon, will lately. Will is usually something that I can explain rationally. I want a cup of water. Why? Well, I'm thirsty. I want a shower. Why? Well, I just, walked 20 minutes in 95-degree heat and I'm schwitzing. Okay, finished, playing tennis. Well, hopefully you take a shower afterwards if you don't want other people to suffer from your presence. Okay, fine. So that makes sense. A taiva is a desire that can't necessarily be understood rationally. Right? You come in from that 90-degree heat, all schwitzy and red, and someone hands you a freezing glass of cold water, and you say, no, I have a taiva for a cup of tea. You say, what? I don't know. And you would say this. I don't know, I just have a taiva for a cup of tea. I don't understand why. I've been thinking about a cup of tea for the last 5 minutes. It's boiling hot. Why are you thinking about a cup of tea? Because you have a taiva for a cup of tea. You have a ratzon for a cup of water. That makes perfect sense. You have a taiva for a cup of tea. That doesn't make sense. Or you came in from the freezing cold in Chicago in January and you wanted a cold beer. What do you mean a cold beer? Take a hot chocolate. I mean, why do you want a cold beer? I don't know. I had a taiva for a cold beer. That's really a taiva. Right? Okay. Hopefully not American beer. Right? Shalom, get them something that tastes okay. So, they don't have to go far, they just have to go to Canada, but probably there's a tariff on it so big that you can't afford it anymore, so they're stuck drinking their, beer with soda in it. Right? It's called American beer. Okay. So, America's a great place, just they can't quite yet figure out beer. Right? Okay. So that Malchus is where all of that imperfection happens, right? The Rebbe doesn't quote it here, but there's an amazing quote in Zohar about Malchus. Ragleha, her legs, yordos, descend mavis, into death. Wow. She's the source of the reality where death is part of it. What's death? The ultimate in tumah, the ultimate in lack of godliness, because what's the Eibishter? Life. What's death? The opposite thereof. That's why the level of tumah caused by death is the most powerful level of tumah, because it's completely and totally antithetical to everything godly. Godliness is highest, it's vitality, life. Okay, so Malchus is the source of that possibility. So therefore, bringing Gula is going to be the tikkun of Malchus. Oh, so Moshe says there's a Medina Chareva, there's a place that's destroyed, and we're going to see in a line, if we ever get there, that Medina is also Malchus. We'll talk about that in a second, why. And it's Chareva. It's broken. Fix it. No, that's what Moshe is asking for. Fix Malchus. Fix the world. Bring Geula. L'chein omer b'medrash b'kashas Moshe, third line. B'kashas Moshe v'knesset Yisrael hu al derech ha'b'kasha Medina ploinis. This city, the Medina hi Malchus. Medina is Malchus for two reasons. Rebbe doesn't explain it all here, but in general, Medina is Malchus. Why? First of all, what's Medina? It's a place. Well, what's the source of space? Malchus. What are the two things that the Eibishter created down here?
Time and space.
Time and space. Right? And there, what's the source of both of them? Malchus. Right? Okay. The highest expression of space, of time, highest expression of time is called Shabbos, which is the seventh day, which is Malchus, but that's when Malchus is allowing for a certain revelation of Or, right? So too, the highest place in space is Shabbos in space. What's that? That's the Beis Hamikdash. Eretz Yisrael is Yom Tov in space. A space that's a holy space. It's not as holy as Shabbos, not as holy as the Beis Hamikdash, as RB Beis Hamikdash. That's Shabbos in space. That's why you couldn't build the Beis Hamikdash on Shabbos. But it's also why you're allowed to be Machal Shabbos in the Beis Hamikdash. You do all sorts of things that are usher to do on Shabbos in the Beis Hamikdash, like what? What's the most obvious thing you do? What?
Shofar. Light fire.
Well, the fire theoretically could already be lit.
Slaughtering
You're slaughtering animals all over the place. It's also you're not allowed to shecht on Shabbos. Well, of course, you're not allowed to shecht. You're allowed to bring a korban. Then you throw the korban on the fire, and it's not like it's on, komash niyah. You put another pot under the pot so that you can put the pot on, and if it's dry, it's okay. No. Mamish a barbecue shein kamo, right? Sizzling away there. Right? Wild. What goes on in there? Just wild stuff. Okay. Later. Okay, so space is Malchus, because Malchus is the source of created reality in that space. Also, what's the root of the word Medina? Look at the word. What's in there? What's the root of it? Din. Constriction. Concealment. Malchus. Din. Right? Okay. So we understand that or we don't understand that. Everybody in this room knows the equation. Medina is Malchus. How? I get it or I don't get it. Doesn't matter. I got the equation. And that's what I have to do. And I have to write it down so I'll remember it, and then I'll be able to follow what the Rebbe is talking about. I'll know more about it. I'll know less about it. Okay, but the basic idea I get. The Medina hi Malchus. Now remember, Moshe is asking about a Medina. Vehi chareva. And she's destroyed. What's that? This is the lacking that was brought about in Malchus. And now the Rebbe says in brackets what we've been waiting for. Inyan miuta yoreach. The diminishing of the moon. part of the creative process was the creation of a malchus that is not lacking, and then bringing the Eibishter brought about a lacking in malchus, so that the world would not be a place of great revelation, the world would be a place of great concealment, in order that you and I would have something to do. Because the taiva of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not simply that he wants to be revealed in this world. Because if that's his taiva, so you're unlimited, so reveal yourself in this world. I don't understand. But this is not more difficult than anything else. Oh, but that wasn't the taiva. What was the taiva? That the Eibusher wants to do b'tachtenim, and this is brought in Chassidus in many places. But he wants to do b'tachtenim, the dwelling place in the lower realms, we brought about by you and me. Why? It's called the taiva. If you were to ask the highest place in God's chokhmah, that place could not explain why God wants a dir b'tachtenim. Mainly you and I can't explain it. The highest place in God's intellect couldn't explain it, because it's coming from a place beyond intellect in him. It's coming from his essence. It can't be explained. But that's what he wanted. He wanted dir b'tachtenim. Why? Kacha. Now we win. We win that he wanted to do b'tachtenim, because here we are. If it weren't for his desire for a dir b'tachtenim, there wouldn't be us. And as much as every single one of us has our trials and tribulations in life and certain aspects of our life that we wish didn't exist, that being said, I certainly hope that every single person sitting in this room is just absolutely overjoyed to experience that thing called existence that we get to experience all the time. It's absolutely astounding that we get to experience existing. And that comes from what? From the Eibishter. Because he's the only thing that really exists. And he gives us a little feeling of what that feels like to exist. Wow, so cool. Existing is really cool. There's parts of it I'd like to do away with, right? I wouldn't mind that. Okay. Because our existence includes physicality and all that. Sometimes the car breaks down, this car. Not just, the other car you can just switch. It's not a problem. If your car breaks down, your car, that breaks down very often. If you take it into the garage, they'll give you another one while they're fixing that one. That doesn't work with your roof. This car that we drive around in, if it breaks down, you just sort of have to deal with it for a while. You're probably not going anywhere for a while. Okay, fine. The echsen and krechtsen that they start showing up. Okay. On one hand, I give you a bracha that you should all experience it, because growing less young has its advantages and disadvantages, right? But one thing we can say about growing less young, it's certainly better than the alternative. There's people who never get to be old because they left us too young. So it has its ups and downs, but it's good. The whole thing is good. It's amazing, but it's broken, and our job is to fix it. So Meisha says to the Eibishter, Malchus is lacking. Build it, fix it. So he asks God, fix Malchus. That's Tefillah L'Meisha. What does the fixing of Malchus mean? Gula mitis v'shlema, as we'll see. The true and complete redemption. The Medina hi Malchus, v'hi chareva, hu chisaron shenasa b'Malchus inyan miyota yerech. Fourth line. Now fifth line. V'bakosha, and his request in the Medrash, gezer sheti boneh, that's what Moshe says in the Medrash, decree that it should be built. He sheyumshach gilui atzmus or ein seif b'malchus. Again, we don't know exactly what that is, but we do, right? We learned that that's the level of Moshe. Moshe is privy to that level of godly light called atzmus or ein seif. And so Moshe says to the Eibishter, bring about a revelation of this level of light below. Now, what's unique about this level of light? What do we say that was unique about this third level of light, beyond Sevev?
Higher than infinity.
Okay, which thing's true. But what do we say? What was very, very, very important about this level of light? Pre-tzimtzum, okay, that's true. That's very similar to what Yosef just said, but yeah, a slightly different expression of the same thing, yes. Okay. What is not relevant on this level in any way, shape, or form? One small little word, tzimtzum. No notion of lacking in this level of reality. It's beyond lacking. It's not that for some reason there's no lacking. It's existentially beyond lacking. Right? Okay. So Mesha asks that Atzmus Ein Sof, which is some technical level of godly reality that we know is completely and totally beyond limitation, and I can't draw it on the board, that Atzmus Ein Sof should be revealed below, in Malchus, to fix it. So let's read that line again. Vabakasha, fifth line. Gezor shetibane. This is the Rebbe saying pshat in the Medrash in Chazal, right? This is Nigla. It's a Medrash. The Rebbe is explaining the Medrash of Chassidus. Because the Medrash, what the Medrash is really talking about. Vabakasha gezor shetibane, decree that it should be built. That's Mesha asking who? Sheyumshach gilui atzmus or ein sof bin malchus. It should be yumshach, drawn down. Gilui atzmus or ein sof, the revelation of the essence of infinite godly light beyond sevev, that's beyond any connection whatsoever to the notion of lacking, just like Moshe himself. B'malchus, in malchus, down here in the world. Shal yedei zeh, by virtue of this, tibane, it will be rebuilt, the city that's broken, bebechinas binyan adayad, in an everlasting way. In other words, it will never break again. Because we know that it can be in a state of wholeness but then break. There was the first Beis Hamikdash, but then it broke. There was the second Beis Hamikdash, then it broke. What's Moshe asking for in the Medrash? Binyan adayad, that there should be a revelation of godliness in the world that's so powerful that not only will everybody in the world be aware of godliness, which is a nice thing, but that they'll be aware of godliness in such a way that the lack of awareness will never ever exist again. As opposed to it being something temporary just because, we put Scotch tape on it and fixed it. It's not leaking right now, but sooner or later it's going to. Binyan adayad. In our Rebbe's words, two ways the Rebbe expresses this in Sichas, over and over and over and over and over. Geula she'ein acharei golus, a geula that there is not after it golus, which is the unique characteristic of the geula of Mashiach, because every other geula the Jewish people have experienced, as amazing as they were, Yetzias Mitzrayim was a pretty astounding geula, but what happened after it? Golus, destruction of the first Beis Hamikdash. It happened, right? It took a long time, right? We were in the desert for 40 years, then we were in Eretz Yisrael for 450 years, and then we built the first Beis Hamikdash, and how long did it last? 410, beautiful. 410 years. So it took 900 years between Yetzias Mitzrayim and Golus. But Golus happened. Short. 70 years, went back, built the second Beis Hamikdash. How long did it last? 420 years. All right? 410, 420. The word katit. Kosis. Katit. Chaf, taf, yud, taf. Right? The crushed oil of the menorah. 420 years, 410 years. Okay? 420 years. Then what happened? And it was destroyed. We're still hanging around in that. What's going to happen? Tekef umiyad. Mashiach is going to take us out of this golus into a geula she'ein acharei golus, a geula that doesn't have a golus after it. This is the geula forever. The third one, just like the third Beis Hamikdash that Yechezkel prophesies. In the time of the first Beis Hamikdash, Yechezkel Hanavi has already adds a prophecy about the third Beis Hamikdash, knowing that the second is temporary. Because there's going to be a Golus after that one also. How that all works, I'm not sure. Meaning, so what did it mean? I mean, B'Emunah Shlema, the Mashiach will come every day. I know there's going to be a Golus. Okay, that was their issue, and it's all in the past. Right? Okay. And so Moshe says, I want there to be a Geula Shein Acharei Golus. That's a Binyan Adayad, an everlasting edifice. Another way the Rebbe says exactly the same idea, and this is even more common than Geula Shein Acharei Golus, and it's in every single Sikha at the end of the Sikha. Not in Likutei Sichas, but in the Sichas where you actually read what the Rebbe was saying as opposed to a written work. Gula Mitis V'Shleim, the true and complete redemption. If it's true, it lasts forever. What?
So is that what Moshe Rabbeinu was davening for?
Exactly. And what's that dependent on? The revelation of a level of godly light in the world that can't possibly be diminished in any way, shape, or form. What's that? Well, we know. Atzmus or Ein Sof. How do we know that? Because the Rebbe got us in the previous page. I didn't know it last week. Okay, but I know it now. I know exactly where that fits in every single level of godly reality. Of course I don't. How much have I learned, B'chlal? But do I know what that means? Yes. Okay. Why am I saying all these things today? Because there's a lot of ideas that we're going to run into in this Maimer that you might say, well, I never heard of this. Okay, say it, but now you did. And there is nowhere to start in Chassidus where I'm going to start at the beginning. And, in arithmetic, you start with 1 + 1, 2 + 2. And what does the teacher do? The teacher goes like this. My goodness, you are the best person to sit next to, Amnon. Right? The person, what did you learn before you learned anything? What did you learn? You had a book, and it had 2 pictures of apples. I took 4. Thank you. And 2 pictures of apples. Right? And what did the teacher ask you to do? 1, 2, 3, 4. Good. So what's 2 + 2? 4. What's 2 + 1? 3. Right? 4. Do you need this anymore?
No.
No, you don't have to do this. And if you do, please, let Rabbi Levinger know and get you some help. Right? None of us need this anymore. We now understand this completely ridiculous idea that there's a reality called 4, because really there's 1 and 1 and 1 and 1. What's 4? 4 doesn't exist. Well, Beseder, it does though, because first of all, Kodesh Baruch Hu says there's 1 through 10. You count behemoths 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the Torah talks about 1 through 49 days. Right? First day, second day, third day, fourth day. So the Torah itself is full of the idea that there's actually something called counting. But I mean, it's all a convention to be able to describe reality in a certain way. Ultimately, there's just a bunch of 1s. Okay, that's true. But you and I can learn mathematics, and we learn mathematics. No, sorry, we learn mathematics in a certain way. You can't learn Chassidus that way. There's nowhere to start. So now that doesn't mean if this was the first day of class in the beginning of Elul, we wouldn't be learning this Maimer. This Maimer we made it to after sitting with the same people for 6 months, right? Okay, that's why I'm apologizing to the people who showed up 3 days ago. Okay, that being said, you can still understand what's going on here. It might be I don't quite have the background to truly appreciate the exactly what every idea, but the basic idea. Okay, I can get the basic idea. And the basic idea the Rebbe is saying is Moshe Rabbeinu is davening to a Kadosh Baruch Hu. The world is in a state of imperfection, perfected. How do you perfect it? Reveal Atzmus or Ein Sof. That's how you perfect it. Okay. What question did we just answer before we see the Rebbe say that we did? We just answered the question. What was our question? What question are we trying to answer?
How is davening?
Why does Moshe daven?
No, Moshe davening because he wants to. He's davening not for himself, for someone else. We saw that in the Medrash.
Why did it specifically have to be an usher?
The question we asked at the end of last year and the beginning of this year, right? We said again. Why is this an expression of Tfilas Usher? Why does he have to be an usher to daven for someone else? Anybody can daven for someone else. That was the Rebbe's question at the end of last year, and we saw it again at the beginning today. Oh, we just answered the question. What did the Rebbe just say? What's his tefillah?
To bring Gilas Atmos Ein Sof down.
To bring the Gili of Atmos Ein Sof down. Who's the only person that could possibly ask for such a thing? Why? Because he's an usher. That's who he is. He's shaykh to that level of elokus. He's the one from Gilu Atmos Ein Sof is a reality. So he says, bring this there. I can't ask for that. Why? I'm not there. You and I. Asking for Gilu Elokus in Olam Hazeh. What are we asking for? I should just see anything. Right? Let me see anything. Something. Shouldn't be pitch black. Right? Meisha? The world's not pitch black to Meisha Rabbeinu. The world is a place of unbelievable revelation. And what's Meisha asking? That what I experience should be revealed to everybody. Wow. That's such an unbelievable answer to the question. The question was an amazing question. Now the answer, as usual, is even better. But the question, you have to appreciate the question also. Only the Rebbe asks questions like this. Why is that tefillah sashi? And then the answer is even greater. Why? Because only Moshe could possibly ask for Gili or Atzma. You and I now can. Why? So Moshe just revealed to us what it's all about. Okay, but with CD, I know there's such a thing to ask for. No, Moshe reveals to you and I that there's such a thing to ask for. Because that's what Moshe is. So Moshe asks for Gilui Atzmus Ein Sof. He's the only one who can ask for that. Again, once he does, it's shaykh to all of us.
My apologies. How was it done again?
How was what done? Moshe's Gilui Atzmus Ein Sof, which we've learned the last 3 days. And there's Moshe can ask for that level of revelation because he knows of such a thing. He knows there is such a thing. He lives that. I can't ask that. Why? I don't live that. Well, now I can live that because I know there's such a state of reality. Why? Well, because Moshe reveals to me that state of reality. Okay, Seder. But if it weren't for Moshe revealing it to me, I wouldn't know it exists. If we didn't, it's simple pshat, right? And if you and I didn't learn Chassidus, and we never learned this mimer, would we necessarily know that there's a third level of light beyond Mamali and Soivev? No, I have to be told that. I don't. Right? Would I, through my experience in Olam Hazeh, be aware of the fact that there's probably some level of godly light-giving vitality to what I experience? Yeah, I think that's probably something that the person could come to appreciate living in Olam Hazeh, even though I can't see it. I know there's got to be something there that's giving all this stuff existence, because everything has a source in something, right? I've never experienced anything that doesn't have a source in something else. Right? I didn't just show up, right? I have parents, right? This cup didn't just show up. There was a tree. The tree didn't just show up. There was a seed. Nothing just shows up. Okay, so the world also probably didn't just show up. Okay, I get it. I could come to that conclusion. And therefore I'd be aware of the fact that there's some level of godly reality that powers the world. But would I be aware of absolute, transcendent levels of godliness? Most people, and when I say most people, I will include most religious Jews who don't learn Chassidus. If they were asked to describe God, they'd say he's the creator of the world. Which is true. He is. But Chazal tell us that God created the world in one thought. B'machshava achas bara alma. That means all of time and all of space exist in that one thought. I don't know how that works, but that's how it works. Okay, therefore, the creation of the world in God's life is this. Are you going to describe me as the person who picked up the cup? Is that true? Is that a true description? Yes. But it also shows that you have the good fortune of knowing absolutely nothing about me and never having met me. Right? Because if you know me at all, you will not describe me as the person who picked up the cup. I don't really want to hear the descriptions, please. I want to go through my life happily ever after, but okay, that's not going to be the description, right? true? My mother doesn't, I'm not the guy who picked up the cup. She might remember the time as a kid that I threw the cup. That's a separate issue, right? Describing God as the creator of the world is true, and obviously, relative to you and I, that's a very powerful description, because I assume this cup might say that I'm the nudnik who keeps picking him up. I get that. But that in no way, shape, or form describes me. I mean, a human being is an unbelievably sophisticated and complex thing. So you're going to describe that human by doing that? Oh, but man, that's describing a human by doing that is less apropos, is more apropos, I'm sorry, than describing God as the creator of the world. Because you and I are finite. As complex and sophisticated as we are, we're still ultimately finite. So there's a finite amount of things that we do in the world, okay? This is one of that finite set. The Abish there? So describing God as the creator of the world? I'll be aware of Mamala. But Saving Atzmus Reinsif. That is. Oh, yes, I don't know what that is. Of course, I know what that is. It's right here. Right? You've got it. Put it away. Chazra. Atzmus Reinsif becomes part of your conscious reality. And what does Mesha ask for? The revelation of that level of godliness down here. And that'll bring about a binyan adayat. That'll bring about a fixing of the world where the world will never need fixing again. It's called Mashiach. It's called Geula Mitis V'Shlem. De keshe. 3 more minutes. De keshe. When? Nismale chisaron. When the chisaron is filled. A chisaron de malchus. When this lacking in malchus is filled. Al yedei shenimshach ba hagilu, that it's drawn down into malchus. I mean, that means down here into Elam Hazeh. All the worlds in between, but the ultimate point is this world. Sheshayach lamalchus. Nimshach ba hagilu sheshayach lamalchus. It'll be drawn down, the revelation that's relevant to malchus, meaning really malchus is a kli for this level of revelation. That's why it's possible for it to happen down here. There's an amazing footnote, 49, on the next page, where that's why, we'll just throw it out now, we'll see it then, but that's why, what does Moshe say? What does the usher say to the king? There's a Medina Chareva, Shehi Shelcha, it's yours. In other words, really, it's shaykh to you. It's a place of unbelievably powerful revelation. But right now, it's hareva. So fix it. Bring about the revelation of godliness that's naturally commensurate to that place. Because really, this place is the place of unbelievably powerful godliness. But it's all concealed. Fix it. So that all that will be revealed, and that those are those 2 extra words that the Rebbe says in the footnote on the next page. He shalcha, it's yours. It's you. The world's really you. The world is really Atzmas Ein Sof. But right now it doesn't show it. So show it. Wow. That when this lacking of malchus is filled by virtue of drawing down the revelation which is relevant to Malchus. Sha'az he mis'ales lahadarga, then she, Malchus, is elevated lahadarga to the level k'meisha haisa kodim, as that she was before shenistalek, that it disappeared v'nechsar and was lacking mimena ha'or, this level of light. Oh, if that happens, there's just a filling of the lacking. So what does the Rebbe say? Azai, if that's what happens, Efshar, it's possible, Sha'or Shanim Shachbad, that the light that's drawn down could disappear at another time. If all I'm doing is, so to speak, bringing Malchus back to the level that she was at before, meaning back to the level of, we'll talk about in terms of Golus and Geula. Bring the world back to a state of Geula that the world was at before it entered into a state of Golus. So what do I know about that state of Geula? First base of Mikdash, what do I know about that state of Geula? It can disappear. So I don't want that. Moshe's not asking for that. Because that's the level of light that's shaykh to Malchus in the most simple way. Ubichdei, in order, that's why you see this and then we'll stop. In order, Shabinyan Shalah, that the building of it, of Malchus, Yeba Bechinas Binyan Adayat, that it'll be an everlasting edifice, is what we say on the wedding invitations. She'ein shayach shetecharev chassid, that it won't, it's not relevant, it should ever be broken again. That hu al yedei shenimshach ba gilui atzmas or the ein sof, that is only through the revelation of this level of godly light shelamayla mi'or hashayach la'olamus, that's beyond the normal level of light that's relevant to the world, it's Malchus. That this level of light, the third level, Moshe's level, Ein Shaykh Tzimtzum V'Siluk. There's no notion of diminishing and disappearing. Oh, so that's what Moshe's asking for. Moshe's not asking, I remember, I haven't heard it for a while, I do remember, shortly after Gimel Tammuz, sitting in a Farbrengen, and the person Farbrengen was crying at the time, and he said something that everybody in the room understood. He said, I'm willing, now really this is the wrong thing to say. I get the emotion, but that's exactly what the Rebbe is saying. We're going to see what's wrong about it. He said, I'm willing to give up Mashiach. I just want to see the Rebbe again. I just want to go back to where we were. I get it. I understand. I get that emotion. But what's he saying? I just want a level of or that's shaykh to the world. It's not an ultimate fixing of it. It's just shaykh to it, but at least I can see it. But that's not what the Eibishter wants. What does the Eibishter want? A level of light that won't allow for any lacking. If I just turn the clock back, so then I get to a place where, okay, Mashiach is, but there's something more that has to happen, whatever it is. Right? So for the Chassid, just seeing the Rebbe with his physical eyes is a revelation, is a revelationary experience. Most people, anybody in any way, shape, or form sensitive to godliness was affected by that experience. Right? People walking by in dollars, they just understood they were in front of a holy person. I mean, you had to be completely insensitive not to get that. Okay, fine. But that's not what it's about. Why? Well, because obviously that's a situation that theoretically could disappear. Haraya did. Right? Well, what are we really interested in? Gula mitis v'shlema, a level of reality that will never disappear. That's called Mashiach. Oh, meaning once it's there, it'll be there forever. Okay. So that's what Moshe is davening for. Moshe is davening not for a temporary state of revelation so that it'll be good for the Jews for the next 110 years, wherever they are. It'll be good. It's not what he's davening for. Is that good? That's great. That'd be amazing. But that's not what he wants. Because what can always happen with that? Well, again, it's just, in the end, it can end, and then you're back where you started. Right? You're looking around at the world now that we live in. We've had 80 years of relative calm in most of the world. Not here. But in most of the world, there's been 80 years of relative calm. They're back. The anti-Semites have crawled out from under their rocks, little worms crawling out from under their rock. And now they're not embarrassed anymore. For 80 years, they were embarrassed. Now they can be, have very famous podcasts and, get fired from Fox News, but they're still, very famous podcasters. Just Pashat, a worm, an anti-Semite, the lowest creature in all of reality. It's famous. And they let him speak at the Republican National Convention because he has power. He can bring in a few million votes because there's people who listen to him. And he's Pashat, a worm. He's just an anti-Semite, which is the lowest creature ever created. They're back. It was nice. It was calm. Right now, 220, what all the statistics say, 220% rise in anti-Semitic incidents. Where? North America, Canada. It's heavy. Because that's not Geula. Geula isn't that we, Baruch Hashem, made it out of the inferno and we went to somewhere that's basically, they're good places. The people are relatively normal. And most of the people are still relatively normal. I'm saying that. Most of the people are still relatively normal. But it's not like it didn't become absolutely clear since Simchas Torah a year and a half ago just how many people there are out there that really just have this Jew derangement syndrome. They just hate us. How can you possibly be on the Hamas's side? Well, I guess, you hate them so much. You like anybody who's not there. It's Hamas, isn't it? They're not exactly, likable. Yeah, they're not very impressive people. Goodness. No, they really aren't. They're just such lowlifes. Right? Such horrible people. But that's not what Moshe asks for. Moshe doesn't ask for some peace and quiet for 80 years. Moshe asks for Ula Mitis V'Shlema. What's that? Medina Chareva V'Hi Shalcha Gezor Shetiboneh. And only Moshe can ask that because Moshe is coming from that place. And since Moshe asks it, then he teaches us to ask it. Okay, we'll go back to tomorrow.
Thank you.